Tonight on Denver7 News at 6.
He's not on the home team. She was with the visitors.
Congresswoman Lauren Boebert finds herself at the center of another controversy.
A lot of what is coming from Lauren Boebert is not a surprise.
A widow sues the police officer who killed her husband, a deputy with the Adams County Sheriff's Office.
She could see his hands. She could see there was nothing in them. So we're seeking justice.
Plus, Governor Polis accelerates the state's vaccine schedule.
We go 360 on allowing dispensaries to deliver.
It only sounds right.
My biggest issue is the ease of, like a teenager being able to get their hands on it.
And Colorado celebrates the life of Martin Luther King Jr. and a message that is more relevant than ever.
Our country has been through a lot, and in this last 2 weeks,
And good evening, and thank you for choosing Denver7. I'm Ann Trujillo.
And I'm Shannon Ogden. Well, some states reserve their biggest travel weekends for Memorial Day. Others get slammed over the 4th of July. But here in Colorado, it's Martin Luther King Jr. Day that draws a crowd.
Skiers and snowboarders flock to the high country over the weekend and then return today, bumper to bumper, trying to beat the marginal snow expected this evening. Chief Meteorologist Mike Nelson will join us with more on that in just a moment. First tonight, let's get to Sean Toll and tonight's traffic. Sean?
Yeah, the nice thing is we all know that the holiday weekend traffic can be really bad. Well, if you look behind me, traffic is moving steady and there's no snow. So a lot of things that don't really resemble the normal MLK traffic weekends, but traffic was pretty heavy this morning heading up to the mountains for skiers who wanted to hit the slopes. And it's been fairly steady for most of the day as people have been coming back down towards the city. But the weather was a big draw to get people out today, out west especially, even if it was still limited, making the snow a welcome sight to those on the mountain for both skiers and the resorts.
I had the day off and school was off, so we decided to take advantage of the snow.
Yeah, because we have more snow coming in tonight.
The snow is going to help us get a little more terrain open. It's been a little bit lean this year in terms of snow, so the snowfall is really appreciated this time of year. Ski Patrol is out working, trying to get some more terrain open as we speak.
And many of the skiers we spoke to were not exactly worried about traffic. They were just happy to spend the holiday on the hill and hopefully avoid any snow like they saw out west. And for where that snow is actually falling right now, let's send it over to Mike Nelson, who's tracking where that snow is coming down.
Thanks, Sean. It's a minor storm. It's not going to do much here, mostly for southern Colorado. So for Denver, we get flurries tonight. There's really nothing happening looking at downtown right at the moment. And no advisories here. There is a little light snow in Jefferson County, down into Park County, Gilpin and Clear Creek. But the advisories and warnings are all to the south of us. And a pretty good storm down there. Up to a foot of snow expected down around Wolf Creek Pass from this storm. But as far as Denver is concerned, it's just going to be a chilly night tonight with flurries. And it's cold already. 31 Fort Collins, Denver 30 expected at Greeley will drop down to the upper teens to low 20s by morning. So just flurries, heavier snow in the southern mountain areas, some scattered slick spots on the roads, chilly weather for Tuesday, warmer for Wednesday. Next snow comes toward the end of the week. I'll have more details on that in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you, Mike. If Lauren Boebert's only goal is to get attention, then her first term in office off to a great start.
In just the last 2 weeks, the freshman congresswoman has made headlines over a publicity stunt in which she faked walking around Washington, D.C. with a gun. She got into it with security over the new metal detectors outside the House chamber. She live tweeted the Capitol siege, and she practically shouted that the election was stolen. Well, Boebert is back in the spotlight again tonight, and this time because colleagues suggested she took rioters on a tour of the Capitol in the days ahead of the insurrection.
We have no evidence that occurred, and for her part, Boebert appeared outraged to be at the center of a spurious claim instead of being the one to spread it. Here's Megan Lopez.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Boebert.
From the moment she hit the campaign trail, Representative Lauren Boebert promised to shake things up in Washington. 2 weeks in, she's already done just that.
I'm in this fight because freedom is a great motivator.
Boebert has drawn attention from D.C. and Capitol Police for promising to carry a gun around Congress. She's had calls to resign over tweets about the riots at the Capitol and been accused of encouraging the unrest when she voted against certifying presidential electors, causing protests outside of her offices in Colorado. Boebert was even temporarily suspended from Twitter before the company backtracked.
It's not typical for a member of Congress to be making waves this early or really at all.
Now she's facing a lawsuit for blocking people on the social media platform.
That is a violation of the basic notion of free speech. The government cannot silence critics. She is a government official.
And some Democrats are accusing the Congresswoman of giving a tour in the days before the insurrection.
We saw Congressman Boettcher taking a group of people for a tour sometime after the 3rd and before the 6th.
Congressman John Yarmouth from Kentucky tells Denver7 he also saw Boettcher with a large group, but, quote, he has no knowledge of who they were or if they were with her. Members of Colorado's congressional delegation said they weren't aware of any tour, and many of them aren't offering them due to COVID restrictions. In a statement to Denver7, Boettcher said, quote, Representative Cohen's claims that he saw me giving a reconnaissance tour with people not on the team is 100% false. I have never given a tour of the U.S. Capitol to anyone besides family members in town for my swearing in. However, Speaker Nancy Pelosi was asked about tours in the days leading up to the riots and said it's being investigated.
We must also have the truth, and that will be looked into.
For DU Politics professor Sarah Chatfield,
a lot of what is coming from Lauren Boebert is not a surprise based on her campaign.
She says it's uncommon for a freshman Congress member to cause so many waves so quickly, but whether all of this attention will turn into action is still unclear, particularly since she's in the minority.
That's going to be interesting to see whether her party chooses to put her on an influential and powerful committee or not. So far, it seems like she may have ruffled a lot of feathers, and that could lead Republican leadership to not put her in such a powerful position.
Thank you. I yelled. Megan Lopez, Denver7.
The town of LaSalle and a police officer are being sued in federal court for the deadly shooting of an off-duty Adams County deputy. Jesse Jensen interjected himself into a car chase in January of 2019. Now, Jensen was in his personal car. For whatever reason, he never called 911 to let them know he was a police officer. Eventually, Jensen gave up, got out, and started walking toward a LaSalle officer staged nearby. She shot him in the head.
He would not listen when I told him to show me his hands, and like he was walking. It wasn't even running. He was like walking at me like, Terminator 2, like with Quicksilver, where it's just really deliberate and really pointed and really mad. Okay. And I just like, stop. And he didn't.
We spoke with an attorney for Jensen's widow today. Now, he conceded that the circumstances were ambiguous, but said that Jensen was still several feet removed from the LaSalle officer and was trying to show he did not pose a threat.
I think that's where the officer training should kick in, right? Hunches are not enough to take police action. Hunches are not enough to arrest somebody. Hunches are not enough to shoot somebody. You need objective facts and indicators, reasons to believe this person might be a deadly threat to somebody else.
LaSalle police said it could not comment on pending litigation. A grand jury declined to indict the officer when presented with the case in 2019.
1,200 cases of coronavirus were confirmed in Colorado today. 862 people are in the hospital, and that number continues to improve. Governor Polis is ordering hospitals to use up all their doses of the vaccine now and worry about getting people their second shots later. The governor's order comes just days after he learned that the federal government's promise of a vaccine stockpile was a lie. And Colorado joined the rest of the nation in celebrating the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. today.
If not in body, certainly in spirit. Jessica Porter has our story.
So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream.
The pandemic may have muted the annual march, but Martin Luther King Jr.'s message was heard loud and clear throughout Colorado.
We thank you for the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King and the vision that he left us. He said that he wanted to see people come together.
Denver and Aurora celebrated with virtual events. A torch was passed to Governor Jared Polis, representing uniting our state in peace and brotherhood.
I'm struck by the silence of this location that a year ago today and for decades, thousands of people gathered here in support of the dream, of the mission.
It's a day to honor the civil rights icon.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed,
but also to reflect on the social justice fight that continues today.
Our country has been through a lot. In this last 2 weeks, the violence, the insurrection at our nation's capital, it has been a difficult time. It is important for every single one of us to stick with love.
To admit that although his peaceful protests were effective, at the time Dr. King and the civil rights movement were not popular.
The civil rights movement and the civil rights bills which was passed
Once again, a lot of folks is troubled by it, but it was good for everybody.
And to accept that Dr. King's flight was not just for racial equality, but for uplifting all people out of poverty.
When the question is asked, where do we go from here? No, I'm returning to the same fight that we already had before COVID-19 ever showed up. Fighting for social justice, fighting for economic equality, and fighting for what we need in educational access for children in our schools.
Jessica Porter, Denver7.
I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.